It's Wednesday, September 17th. We have double trouble out here in the tropics. We have a new invest coming off the coast of Africa, which could potentially form into a system in the coming weeks. And of course, we have the main thing of concern, which is that 90% chance of formation invest, which is trailing a bit more westward into the Atlantic as we speak. But luckily, as that invest travels westward, here it is right here on the European model, it's still expected to make that big swoop out back into the Atlantic. Now, the only changes from yesterday's model runs are actually good. It is expected to make that turn earlier, which would make it not affect Bermuda at all. And it is expected to be a weaker storm. And even more good news, our second invest, which would be down here in the Atlantic, we're going to want to watch this little blob of circulation right here. Doesn't really have that high of a chance of formation at this current moment in time. However, we're still going to want to watch this very closely as it is the peak of hurricane season. And atop on the craziness happening out in the tropics, we have a small isolated risk of some severe weather today that's highlighted by a marginal risk up here in the upper plains and parts of eastern New Mexico and southeastern Colorado. This is mostly going to be for that 60-mile-an-hour damaging wind risk. It's going to be pretty conditional, and then the hail risk covers the same area. That's also going to be for some 1–2.5 inch in diameter hail. And here's what the radar is going to look like in that area for those storms. Those storms are expected to start popping up around the early to mid-afternoon in parts of eastern Colorado and eastern Mexico. We could also see some redevelopment along a front from yesterday's storms, really brought by this big spinning low and then trough up here in parts of Nebraska. That's going to be in kind of a linear format, stretching all the way from the Texas panhandle through the Oklahoma panhandle, through Kansas, and up through Missouri and Iowa as well. Could potentially see some strong storms up there. Not really severe though. And the main risk of seeing some severe storms would be for a couple of discrete to even just more clustery modes back here in our marginal risk area, potentially bringing some 60-mile-an-hour damaging winds. Those are going to be initiated by the same thing, that cold front, that trough, and then the upper plains convergence. So, and then also a low pressure system up here near Denver. Now, I think there could potentially be a small window for these storms to potentially produce tornadoes. That would be in the late afternoon for these cluster just south of Denver. I think the ingredients are a bit more favorable there, but that risk is still going to be pretty close to zero. So it's just going to be mostly a wind and damaging hail threat, even if that. And here's a better look at that trough bringing our severe weather. We can see that low pressure system situated up in parts of Nebraska. We can see the wind vanes kind of rotating around this point right here. And then we can also see some increased flow bringing some forcing for our storms today. That's going to be the main, or one of the main causers for our weather today. And then that's pretty much it. We can see that this trough isn't really as strong as it once used to be. So there is actually going to be a downtrend in severe weather for the next couple of days. And here's the environment in our marginal risk area, potentially bringing some damaging winds and some small hail. Now the damaging wind threat is going to be helped by a higher cloud base. That's also going to make that tornado threat almost zero, a pretty high low-level lapse rate, and also some dry air aloft. We have some favorable mixing for that to happen. We also have quite a bit of cape and a nice mid-level lapse rate, 8.6 Celsius decreasing per kilometer, and a freezing level that isn't super high. So normally that would be something indicating some large hail, but because our organizational shear isn't really expected to be over 20 knots, I think we're not going to really see hail above that 1.5-inch threshold. Just for general severe weather, we have a moist enough environment, some nice cape up here nearing that 2,500 to 3,000 range. And our 3 cape isn't that poor either, 75. Other things for the damaging wind threat, our downdraft cape is going to be around 1,500, and our relative humidity is somewhat low. So it looks like it's just mostly going to be a damaging wind threat today, potentially some small hail, and a very small window for a couple of tornadoes in a portion of southern Colorado just south of Denver, but I think that risk is going to be mostly zero.